It is Monday, January 27th, 2025. This is another playoff edition of Football Today. It is presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. I am Chris Rose, joined as always, but in a very different locale, by Justin Penik and Bobby Skinner. Producer Connor is here as well. So you guys are hanging out on somebody's couch. You need to
We're
explain where you are.
we're in our favorite place in the world, a nasty ass Airbnb in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl.
Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Seriously, wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So we're in our happy place.
Okay, good. So you guys will have plenty of content there as some of the NFL future stars of tomorrow will be gracing your presence. I want to know who gets the top bunk, Penik, between the two of you.
Bobby Skinner. Therefore, we can replicate that scene from Step Brothers when it breaks, and then breaded, and then I show that I have that nasty scar on my forearm.
Yeah, I just kind of I'm a big I want the master bedroom.
Yeah.
I try to think about other people's feelings, but when it comes to Airbnb, I'm always just that's where I'm taking my dibs is the master bedroom.
Well, in fairness, there aren't
Which
a
is
lot
not
of
very nice in this house, but still.
Yeah. What I would say is this, is that I don't see you fitting in a twin bed anytime soon. I could be wrong.
No.
No, they're a scam. They said 4-bedroom, and one of the bedrooms is just beds in an open area.
It's just beds in a living room.
Well, that counts.
It pseudo counts.
All right, how many beds does your house have, Rose?
Well, it's time for us to get to our main topic of the day, if you don't mind. It's time for our La Vida Más Fina Game of the Week, brought to you by Corona. Well, we have Super Bowl 59 all set for now less than 2 weeks down in New Orleans. It's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl 57, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. But that La Vida Más Fina Game of the Week is the AFC title game where the Chiefs needed a late field goal by Harrison Butker. They hold off the Buffalo Bills. 32-29 is your final. So Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and Andy Reid have done it yet again. They are off to their 5th Super Bowl in the last 6 years. That is something that we have never seen before. They're chasing their 4th ring, and they do it by ending the Bills season for the 4th time in the last 5 years. I don't know how you guys felt, but we've kind of changed the thought process with the Chiefs that over the last year and a half, things have shifted. They've gone from this high-scoring, offensive, really fun pinball-type machine to watch to a defensive team. But when Patrick Mahomes needs to make plays, he does so. And I thought that's exactly what happened on Sunday, Bobby.
I don't think he made a single mistake. I mean, obviously there will be some mistakes when you go back and look at it, but every play was okay, good job, Patrick Mahomes. It was a phenomenal game. I mean, they just got success after success. First 30-point offensive game of the year, I believe, for them. Watching Mahomes, I'm sure we're gonna have conversations about Allen and his legacy and good and stuff. But it was just clear Mahomes was on a different level. Whether it was using his legs, right, 2 rushing touchdowns, 11 carries that he had in the air, finding guys in the middle of the field. And Andy Reid called a great game as well too. But Patrick Mahomes was just on his A game, and that's why he goes to all these Super Bowls. It's because he doesn't have these stinkers in the playoffs.
If there's one thing that I feel like we've learned this year, as we've talked all year, and really, I guess, over the last 2 years now, if we talk the last 2 years about how boring the Kansas City Chiefs are, they play a boring brand of football, right? If there's one thing I think we've learned this year, look at the top 2 teams that are left. The Philadelphia Eagles, they kind of play this little bit of boring brand of football, even though Saquon Barkley is explosive. And we know the Chiefs are doing it offensively and defensively. They just dominate there too. So, I kind of feel like the NFL is just trending in that direction of these teams that, they can run a lot of plays on offense and they won't make mistakes. Offensively and defensively, they can kind of handle themselves. We know these top 2 teams can. But with Mahomes, man, it's not pretty. 18 for 26, 245 yards, 1 touchdown. So it's not like we're talking about a guy that just went out there and threw for 375, 4 touchdowns, and had a completion rate of 75%. So that's not the performance that we're talking about. But still,
10 yards per attempt as well, though.
Season high in dropback success rate and season high on total EPA, and he's doing it on just getting rid of the ball so quick. His average time to throw is 2.59 seconds versus Josh Allen, he's holding onto the ball for almost 3 seconds. And then you could see the pressure rate, how it's almost cut in half for Mahomes and it's double for Josh Allen. Mahomes has just mastered, and again, he's mastered being boring But in a league that is kind of demanding these elite quarterbacks, this is how you have to be successful. You have to dink a duck. You have to rely on yards after the catch, and they do a great job of running these pick plays, and then Smith-Schuster is able to get 30, 40 yards after the catch. Mahomes has just mastered that shit, man. And even if you want to say it's boring and the stats aren't that great, he's mastered it, and you have to give him credit for that.
So it's interesting. 25-ish years ago, I was covering the PGA Tour when Tiger Woods was at his apex. And when Tiger won his fourth straight major over at the British Open, I remember the Hall of Fame golfer Tom Watson came over and talked to the media, and he said, I want you guys to remember this moment because Tiger's setting the bar so high that not even he can jump over it. And I think that Mahomes probably did that a little bit because we saw things the first 3 years as a starter, 2018 through 2020, or maybe even a little bit beyond that, where we really just hadn't seen it out of a young guy who was starting out of the gate. Remember, he only started one game his rookie year because Alex Smith was still the quarterback, and then he took off. I think it'd be a great exercise for people before the Super Bowl to go back and watch, just pick some game and watch Mahomes, and his style of play is significantly different than it is right now because he has mentally mastered the game. And it felt like on third and whatever, if it's 3rd and 3, Kansas City always seemed to be in rhythm. And a lot of that is because of this wonderful relationship that Mahomes and Andy Reid have, that it just feels like they share a football brain. And yesterday was such a grind for Buffalo on 3rd and short. I hated it that they kept just running Josh Allen over left guard. Maybe that's because Tony Romo made the point so clearly early on. And I was like, y'all have James Cook, or can we try something else? Can you roll Josh Allen out?
Unbelievable.
Right? Because every time Mahomes seemed to do that and needed a big play, he would do it. And it seemed so much easier than what Buffalo was trying to grind out, Bobby.
Oh, the QB sneaks by the Bills were driving me nuts. I don't tweet much during the games, but one of mine was like, stop QB sneaking. And then you have the 4th down one that, people would debate whether he got it or not. Regardless, he didn't get very much, even if you do think he got it by an inch. It was just so unsuccessful time after time, and it cost them. I don't understand. I understand if you're the Eagles and you've got that shit down to a T with the tush push and stuff, fine.
Right.
Other teams, you can get an explosive play there, right? Like the goal can be more than just getting half a yard or a yard. Like you can get an explosive play there. The goal line one was nuts because it's like, all right, they're going to QB sneak even though I don't want them to do this. But then he backs out and, like you said, goes over to left guard. That doesn't work.
I mean, you go backwards before you're going forward.
Yeah, the Chiefs were just ready for it, and their formation didn't allow the Chiefs to have to prepare for anything else outside of the QB sneak. It was mind-numbing to see the Bills do that over and over again.
Chiefs also win the game on a formation where, Rose, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, all right, we're going to run the ball. They're kind of like more of a running heavy formation, and then they play action out of it, and then they get a big, you get a big play that way. That's how the Chiefs win the game, and I think that's kind of the difference between these two teams is that the Bills are good and there's good stuff. There's good and even great Josh Allen moments, but again, these Chiefs just don't make mistakes in key moments, and other teams make those mistakes in key moments.
When the Bills were up by 1 and they went for it on that fourth and 1, it's not the hottest take, but it's like, all right, well, whoever gets this is probably going to win the game. The Chiefs get that, they go down, score a touchdown, and it's not over at that point because the Bills came and tied it up. But it just felt like it was going to go the Chiefs' way after that.
Yeah, going back to that 3rd and 9 that sealed it for Kansas City, the pass to Pirine, it just felt like, once again, it was easy. It was like a no-brainer call for Andy Reid. Hey, if he's covered, you know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do? He's going to run. He's going to keep the clock going. We'll punt it back to him, but it's going to be deep in their own territory. And so we're going to leave the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand to not run around frantically to try and make some hero play. It's very defined. It's very simple. And we have the guys that can out-execute the defense, and that's the way it goes. I was really disappointed in Buffalo's lack of James Cook, and I don't know if he was banged up. It looked like in the third quarter, on that one drive where Cook kind of took over, that he might have hurt something. We never heard anything from the CBS broadcast crew, and if we did, I had missed it. But I thought that he's their best weapon outside of Josh Allen. and it
Yeah.
just looked like they could have used him so much more. He ran for 6.5 yards per carry. I just think that he's one of those guys. You keep pounding the defense with him, and at some point, like he broke a 33-yarder early in the second half. If you do that in the fourth quarter, who knows? Another one might shake loose.
Yeah, it felt like. But now Josh Allen played really well. We'll talk more about him, but yeah, it felt like you said, that where the Chiefs, they just figured everything out that the Bills were doing. The Bills, it felt like it was a scrap it out game. At the end of the day, they didn't hand the ball off to Cook or get him involved in the receiving game like you thought that he would. But I think the thing that really killed the Bills, man, is something we worried about when they traded Stephon Diggs. They just didn't have like a wide receiver you just go to trust to go out there and win. Like that showed up consistently. Keon Coleman, I thought, was a negative for them. Kincaid has the drop.
Cooper had some moments, but not what you expect out of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, so they, I guess Mac Hollins made some big plays.
Yeah, he became like Gabe Davis.
Those were like great throws by Josh Allen as well. But it just felt like the Bills didn't have a receiver they could just trust to go out there and win.
Yeah,
which makes not using James Cook even that more bad, Rose.
Yeah, I thought that. I'll tell you who surprised me, and not just because of the last offensive play for the Bills. I thought that Dalton Kincaid was going to have a better year overall than he did. I thought that he was the first tight end taken in that 2023 heavy tight end draft. And
they traded up for him.
And it's been a little disappointing so far. That, unfortunately, is going to be something he's going to live with in the offseason because as hectic as that play was, he did get two hands on the football.
Yeah.
I guess we do have to talk about this. This is Buffalo for the fourth time in the last 5 years. They can't get past Kansas City. I mean, they have won 4 straight in the regular season against them, and they're 0-4 in the playoffs with this sort of machination between these two quarterbacks and these two coaches as well. Is this just the stumbling block that the Bills have, or is there something different going on here? Like, what do the Bills have to do to get past Kansas City in January as opposed to October or November?
Well, they gotta convert on these plays that we look back at, whether it's the 4th and inches QB sneak that doesn't work, the fake punt last year, stop the Chiefs from getting 40 yards in 13 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the individual plays that we could go back and lose, like make those plays, and they just haven't done that. But in reality is, the Chiefs are just better than the Bills.
Yeah, be the better team.
The Chiefs have built a better roster while having to pay their quarterback, where the Bills haven't. This was kind of a teardown. So the Bills, I don't walk away from this like, the Bills, what another failure they are. They just are running into, like you said, the Chiefs are setting the bar so high that not even Tiger Woods could jump over it. The Bills, if you take this team and throw it back 6 years before Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, we might be talking about like a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Buffalo Bills team. But they just keep running in to the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs, and they're simply just a better team than the Bills.
Yeah, I really wonder. I saw even people talk about this, and I'm way too young to. I didn't even live through this, but I saw and you got to start. Tiger Woods, we load off the show with that. Like, I think when talking about Mahomes and the Chiefs and these kind of dynasties, you have to start throwing these names out there. And then even like Michael Jordan in the 90s. Mm-hmm. It's like, the teams that are good in that Eastern Conference, like what do you do? Do you kind of just throw your hands up and be like, all right, well, we got to just play a bit? That's honestly, I think that's the answer. You kind of just have to throw your hands up in the air being like, we're going to match up with them again. We got to play a better football game. And, of course, you're going to go along, you're going to add, and you're going to draft, you're going to supplement in free agency, or you're hopefully going to get a wide receiver one in here. There's things the Bills need to do, don't get me wrong. But at this point, you got to just play a better football game than the other team.
The Bills need to find their any given Sunday against the Chiefs. That's what they need to find because, like you said, you can look back at decisions they've made, like letting Xavier Worthy go instead of maybe trying to trade up for Brian Thomas, which they were rumored to do. There's things we'll go back, look at, and the Bills have made mistakes, roster building or whatever. But in reality is they are a great team with a great quarterback facing a greater team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and a better quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. And the reality is they need to find their any given Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs, where you, like you said, you make those plays that we look back at and the reason why they ended up failing.
Yeah, but the any given Sunday happens during the regular season. I guess that's my point, is that if you're a frustrated Bills fan, you sit here and you say, Well, we can beat them because we do it every year in the regular season.
Exactly.
And then in January, it's not like the game changes. The stakes do, but the game itself doesn't change. So I don't know. And Bobby, you said earlier that you thought Josh Allen played really well. I thought he was just okay, to be honest with you. I know that this is not his overall strength in terms of throwing with anticipation and timing, but I think that part of his game not being there really holds this offense back when you're going against a super smart, talented defense like Kansas City. They just don't. It's almost like when he drops back, it's backyard ball the whole time. That's what it feels like with me.
I feel like the Chiefs were ready for like some of the quick game stuff that they've done, and that stuff didn't hit. Shakir wasn't able to get the yak that he sometimes get. Like the only good stuff happened is when they push the ball down the field to Mac Hollins. Unfortunately, they don't have the push the ball down the field.
No, they don't.
Type guys. Now, I will say, first quarter, I thought Allen looked bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like he got really lucky that he didn't get intercepted. It was almost like he was too amped up. When those don't end up turning the interceptions, we don't remember those plays, and you say it like he could have done the same thing that Lamar did last week and had 2 early turnovers, and we're saying that's the reason. But those balls were dropped by the defenders. So yeah, I guess I feel a fine game is like you're saying, but nowhere near what Patrick Mahomes did in this one.
Yeah,
and you're also
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
No, go ahead, finish up.
You're also squaring off against one of the best big game, and I'm talking like
Spags brought
big
it too.
Game defensive coordinators in NFL history, and I don't want to say that just as like, hey, I'm a little bit of a younger guy, but I really think so. I mean, this is the same guy that defeated the 17-0 or 18-0, excuse me, at the time, New England Patriots in Super Bowl 42, and then he's gone on to win three or four more Super Bowls. I think 3 more with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I mean, it was the blitz packages, especially late in the game, that really made the difference. And the Chiefs had the 5th highest blitz rate in the NFL this season. Generating a league high 49 unblocked pressures on blitzes so far this year. And it's an X factor against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But typically that's a guy, because of the backyard ball stuff, typically you don't want to blitz him, but the Chiefs are like, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to control the tempo of the game. We're going to throw the changeup and the curveballs. And against the Eagles, that's going to be key to getting Jalen Hurts off his platform.
Yeah, the Bills' last play of the game, where it's just unblocked Josh Allen. Now Josh Allen throws back, he gets the ball to Kincaid. Kincaid should have caught it. If that's just a pressure and not just right away in your face, he might throw a better ball to Kincaid and ends up being a touchdown or something. Or he just checks the ball to Khalil Shakir and he gets 6 yards and they live for the next series to try and go win the game. Which they were down by 3, right? I think that's something we forget in this when we talk about Mahomes versus Allen. They weren't playing to try and tie the game up. They were down by 3, and it's like, well, control your legacy, and then that's how it ends on a 4th and 5 that way, where Spags brought it that whole quick drive for the Bills.
Before we put this game and the season to bed for the Buffalo Bills, do you look at Josh Allen any differently than the way we talked about Lamar last week? Or are they exactly in the same boat?
They're not exactly in the same boat, but I don't. Allen's got to get it done and win a Super Bowl to be put on to those next levels of grades we talk about. But this like Lamar Jackson was like his best playoff loss last week, and Josh Allen, this was like his 2nd or 3rd worst playoff loss, and it's very similar to what Lamar's game was last week.
Yeah, Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter showed the playoff head-to-head where you have when Allen and Mahomes faced off against each other. Allen has 11 total passing and rushing touchdowns. Mahomes has 12. Each of them have 1 turnover. Josh Allen has a 65 completion percentage. Mahomes is 74 completion percentage. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story of like how quarterbacks do just based on your touchdowns, your turnovers, and your completion rate. But Mahomes has the 4 wins and Allen has the 0 losses. But nevertheless, the stats are, kind of those basic box score stats are somewhat similar. But Bobby's right. Like Lamar has had like legit bad playoff games where Allen, he has these great playoff performances, but him and the team just don't pull it out. So I certainly don't put them on the same level in terms of playoff QB conversations and narratives.
But if Lamar gets to the Super Bowl next year and wins it, then it jumps.
Then of course it jumps.
But Yeah, obviously. But, Dante Fleming, I think he works for you guys, Rose. He said teams with 4+ touchdowns and 0 turnovers are 21-2 in the playoffs since 2020. The 2 losses are the Bills against the Chiefs.
Yep, it's pretty remarkable.
Of course.
Well, that was our game of the week brought to you by Corona. You know what we always try and be? Fans that never lose. And here's what we mean. Our teams don't win every single night. In fact, as a Browns fan and Giants fans over there in Mobile, Alabama, they rarely win. So even when they lose, we still love the game because whether it's a big-time deep ball or a conversion of third and fourth or short or a great tailgate out in the parking lot, there's always something to cheer for. And the best beer to pair with those awesome moments, Corona. Corona's all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game. Win or lose, home of the road, it's the perfect beer to go along with watching football and all the moments that come along with it. So cheers to everybody who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com for 21 and over. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. All right, we continue on. NFC title game. Pretty much a knockout punch from the word go. The Philadelphia Eagles are off to their 5th Super Bowl in team history as they drop a conference record 55 points in the 55-23 win over the upstart and plucky Washington Commanders. Saquon Barkley, another monster game. Sorry, Giants fans out there. Over 100 yards on the ground. He had 3 of the Eagles' 7 rushing touchdowns on the day. Penik, was this just the sort of thing where Philadelphia finally unlocked itself after 2 so-so performances earlier on in the playoffs, or was just Washington overmatched in this case?
It was Will Shipley.
I think both. You also had Washington. Washington, the 3 fumbles came at very, very bad times. As soon as you thought that maybe Washington was going to creep itself back into the game, they lose the football, and it's like, well, you can't have that. And again, this, I really think this NFL season, these 2 final teams that are left standing, they're boring teams. They win in unique ways. They win in their own ways, and they win because the other teams don't necessarily make mistakes. As Rose has gotten up from his seat, and he has seemingly left the show.
The fumbles were big.
I was going to ask a trivia question.
They were down 7-3, second drive, and he jumps up and fumbles. Then, you're at the end of the half. And then you fumble the kickoff and you give the Eagles another touchdown.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, okay, maybe the Commanders get a touchdown, get a stop, which was very rare for that game. You're thinking, okay, maybe the Commanders score here, they have a chance. Then they fumble on that play. The fumbles were huge, and I think it's a credit to Vic Fangio where he said, you're not going to kill me with these explosives, Washington Commanders. You're going to have to grind it out. And I thought the first drive of the game was indicative of that.
I have a stat
18
on that.
plays, converting 4th downs, and you only kick a field goal, which at the moment you're like, okay, that's not bad. You took half the clock off, and then the Eagles go and score a touchdown on the first, their first play, and you're feeling like this is going to end up being a long one.
And this is something to kind of keep an eye on for really the Super Bowl matchup now, because we know that Mahomes is doing so well. He's completed a league high 83% of his passes on quick attempts so far this year. So Vic Fangio did give Washington that. 18 of 24 for 154 yards, a touchdown and an interception under 2.5 seconds, but struggled on dropbacks over 2.5 seconds. 11 for 24 with 101 yards. So Vic Fangio willing to give up the quick game, but Jaden Daniels, when you're holding on to the ball, wasn't able to have the same success that he usually has.
I want to give a little bit of love to Jalen Hurts as well. First of all, we didn't know
he played great.
How he was going to be health-wise with that knee that he injured in the divisional round against the Rams. Not only did he run effectively with 3 touchdowns, and he could do everything that he needed on the short conversions with the tush push. I really thought he threw the ball exceptionally well. That 4th down pass in particular on the left sideline to A.J. Brown that kept the drive alive where they totally took Lattimore out of the game mentally. That was his prettiest pass of the day. You have to remember, and we'll have plenty of time, obviously, over the next 2 weeks to discuss Super Bowl 57. He was en route to being the MVP of that game. He was the best player on the field in Super Bowl 57, and something has happened with him where he hasn't been quite right, certainly throwing the ball since then. But I thought he threw the ball beautifully. I thought he moved around extremely well, and it's such a difference with, Jalen Hurts without his mobility is like, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
even know if he's a top 20 quarterback.
he looked healthy, and I wasn't expecting him to be healthy in this game. I thought that was going to be a huge factor. And like you said, he looked very fine. They were tush pushing. He was running the ball. Even some of his throwaways were plays where he's trying to keep it alive, and then ends up being able to escape and throw the ball away and live for the next play. And the A.J. Brown big play on the fourth down, that's obviously huge, but that's still been the one thing he's been consistently good at. And I don't know why teams do this to the Eagles on fourth down, where they're like, we're just going to blitz you, and we're going to give you a clear one-on-one for A.J. Brown. I don't know why, especially the way Marcus Lattimore's been playing since he joined the Commanders. Like, I don't understand why they gave them that easy out. But it was the plays versus zone coverage where the Commanders dropped back in coverage, and he was just able to find the holes on the sideline consistently. It wasn't just a play here or there by Hurts. I thought he consistently played his if not the best, one of his best passing games of the year.
18 for 20 from inside the pocket. 18 for 20 on the day. 216 yards. So only 30 yards when he was throwing the ball outside the pocket, but he handled it very well.
Saquon Barkley, talk about a tone setter. A 60-yard touchdown on their first play from scrimmage. His second touch of the day, he also found the end zone. I know this is tough for you guys as Giants fans. Well, I'm curious. What are your thoughts watching your former best offensive player walk into the Super Bowl year one at a division rival?
Oh, it's annoying. It's obviously annoying. It just is. But like, I thought Saquon would have a really awesome year for the Eagles. He just gets 3 touchdowns or 200 yards in every single game, and then the playoffs. And we have a private Twitter account for our Patreon where it's like we just let it a little loose, and I'm like, are you fucking how did this fucking happen? Where we got like 30% of the big play shit from Saquon since his rookie year, and now in Philly, he's just off to the races every single play. Obviously that offensive line, but he's just got his juice fully back, and he makes play after play after play, and that offensive line allows him to get in space and make those plays where he wasn't able to do that. So we can sit back and revisit the decision, and I could tell you that the Giants running backs had more rushing yards this year than they did last year with Saquon Barkley on the team and all that bullshit. But in reality, it's frustrating because no matter what you think about drafting him second overall, we had this amazing talent for 6 years, and it just was not be able to be utilized to its fullest because of the surrounding parts.
Yeah. And you watch the Eagles, and teams are selling out to stop the run. And then you watch the Giants over the last couple of years, it's like, well, there's no threat of a passing game, so teams are selling out to stop the run there as well.
They didn't draft run-blocking offensive linemen.
Right, but that's the difference is that, Saquon no matter how much we talk about Saquon Barkley, it's the funny peculiar thing about the NFL, it's that it's those guys up front that really are the difference makers and the ones that maybe deserve a little bit more shine than the actual running back itself. Because I think this is just it's a telltale example of, you would play Saquon Barkley on the Giants, and what would teams prepare for starting Wednesday morning or when they would start to prep for the team, right? It would be you have to stop Saquon Barkley. And now you're on the Eagles, and you're preparing to play the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. What is the first thing you're talking about? We have to stop Saquon Barkley. So it's the same thing, but the results just couldn't be more different. And that's the frustrating thing. It's not that it's frustrating that, number one, Saquon chose to go anywhere. He chose to go to a division rival that's very much hated, a division rival that has such a great circumstances like the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I would have much rather him go to Houston and be okay over there, but instead he chose to go to Philly, which is just a great situation for any running back, and he was 100 yards away from breaking the rushing record. And on top of that, if they wind up winning the Super Bowl, this will go down as, I think, even though he came up short rushing record wise, it probably will go down as, we're going to view it as the greatest running back season ever, because he's done it in the postseason, 40, 60, 50-yard runs every single game, and there's multiple of them.
It's going to be really interesting because the Chiefs gave up 6.5 yards a pop to James Cook on Sunday. Now, they were a top 10 rushing defense throughout the regular season. We'll see what Spags has dialed up because, once again, you talk about it, there are weapons all over the field, more so than just Saquon Barkley. You've got 2 great receivers on the outside and an exceptional tight end who's been used very, very well so far in a few of their playoff wins. Just want to spend 1 minute on the Washington Commanders and the season that Jaden Daniels had. To me, it was the best rookie year we've ever seen out of a quarterback, not just because he got them to a conference title game, but more importantly because of where this franchise was, where they drafted him. And guys have been drafted in the top 5 or the top 10 before and joined woeful franchises. This is a team that needed an entire emotional facelift, if you will. And they got that with a new owner in Josh Harris. They got it with a new architect in Adam Peters. They got it with a guy, Dan Quinn, when he was hired. Not a lot of people were excited about that hiring. They were thought, oh, okay, well, he kind of rediscovered himself as a DC down there in Dallas. Maybe that's where he should stay. But obviously he came in and he brought some juice and changed the entire locker room. And then you drop this quarterback and a revamped play caller in Cliff Kingsbury, and all of a sudden they've got something special going on there. And this will probably be the worst team that Jaden Daniels plays on. Right as of right now, they've got the third most cap space. They've got some guys that were probably one and done there among the veterans. And I think they're going to upgrade around him. And I think he's going to be the quarterback standard bearer in the NFC for a long time to come.
Yeah, and the way he grew from early on in the season too was pretty unbelievable. His confidence has to be unmatched, and when you watch him play, it's like, okay, this is just a confident player and knows what he's doing. And hell, like, I know they lost this game, and they're forcing shit a little bit at the end, so it's 23 points, a turnover. If you got a decent defensive performance, we might be talking about the Commanders grinding out and winning this game, and fumbles, screwed them as well on a kick return. De'Ami Brown on a first down catch that he had. Austin Eckler on a play that would have led to a second down or whatever. So his surrounding cast let him down on offense outside of just not being, the most talented team in the world. We're some Commanders' mental mistakes away from, this game being 26-34 Eagles win or some shit like that.
Yeah. So we'll be talking more about the Commanders certainly in the offseason. It's a new year. We're all about setting goals and actually hitting them. That's why I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Huel. It is spelled Huel, the global complete nutritional brand trusted by millions. Now, Huel is perfectly balanced as a meal. It's designed by experts to provide all the nutrients your body needs from a meal. Huel takes the guesswork out of healthy eating. They're convenient. They taste really good. Huel shakes actually taste kind of like a milkshake. Now, one of my favorites is this one. It is the Black Edition, ready to drink because it's got 35 grams of protein plus 27 vitamins and minerals. You can find Huel in GNC stores or Amazon or directly at Huel.com. And for new customers shopping at Huel.com, you can try it for 15% off plus a free gift using the exclusive code Football Today. That's 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with the code Football Today, all one word at Huel.com. Start your year off strong. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in mere minutes so you can focus on what really matters. All right, before we get out of here, time to focus on the first look at Super Bowl 59 down in the Bayou. In less than 2 weeks, it's a rematch of Super Bowl 57, which was won on a last-second kick by Harrison Butker, 38-35. That one was played out in Glendale, Arizona. Jalen Hurts, as I said earlier in the show, probably would have been the Super Bowl MVP had the Eagles won. Instead, it went to the Chiefs, where Patrick Mahomes was named the Super Bowl MVP. Give me one thing that most interests you 13 days out from Super Bowl 59, Bobby.
How dominant will Saquon Barkley be? Because they've played two teams that weren't great rushing defenses the last 2 weeks in the Rams and the Commanders. Will they just be able to be a dominant run game against the Kansas City Chiefs? Because if they're able to do that, you could talk about Spags' blitzes and all that, and the Mahomes, they can put up 30 points and win that game. It's how dominant will Saquon Barkley be?
And I want to piggyback on that because something that I want to kind of look into as the 2 weeks go by. Saquon Barkley, a lot of these runs, like the two against the Rams in the second half, and then one of them against the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders these teams are playing single high, and they're blitzing guys we're going after the run. We're going after Saquon Barkley to stop him here. We're going after the quarterback. We're going after Barkley to stop him. And Barkley is able to do this little hesitation move in the backfield that gets guys out of their angles and gets them in undisciplined spots. So then, boom, he's able to hit the hole, hit a spot, and then he's gone. And then it's just 1v1, and he's going to beat that guy down the field, right? So I know Steve Spags. I know they're all looking at that. It's like, all right, even if we're going to stack the box and load the box, we got to make sure that even when Barkley does this little hesitation move behind the line of scrimmage, that we got to stick in our angles, we got to stay disciplined in the run game. I'm going to be really interested and fascinated to see how, typically we talk about, how are you going to play this quarterback? Too high, cover 3, whatever, man coverage, zone coverage. I'm talking about that with Saquon Barkley. Like, do you play Saquon Barkley with 2 high safeties because you would rather allow an 8-yard run to Saquon Barkley versus a 40 or a 50-yard run to Saquon Barkley? These are the conversations that we're having about Barkley, which is fascinating, which typically you talk about that with quarterbacks playing single high versus 2 high. That's a good point by Bobby.
I'm curious with Jalen Carter, as much as a disruption as he can be, and we saw it certainly in the Rams game, not as much against Washington. Although you could ask a Biotish about getting poked in the eye and bitch slapped in the head by Jalen Carter, whether or not he left his mark in this game. He's going against a great interior line. I would have said that like 6 weeks ago, but now that Tooney has moved from left guard to left tackle and Caliendo has come in, so now it's a triumvirate of Caliendo, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. How are they going to do against Jalen Carter, who, as I mentioned, can be the most disruptive interior force that we've got in this game now that Aaron Donald has moved on to retirement pastures? So that's something I'm sure that Andy Reid is going to be thinking about. And just big picture, I look at the two offenses and I say, how the heck can the Chiefs outscore the Eagles? Like, is it really possible? Which guy do you want out of the skill guys? Who would you rather have when you line it up position by position? I suppose you could say Kelsey, but Dallas Goedert has played really well here in the playoffs. Kelsey only had 2 catches for, I think, 19 yards yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So Bills did a lot to try and take away him, and you saw the other guys thrive from that. But at the same time, this Eagles team is not, I won't say as good offensive. Actually, you know what? They're not as good offensive as they were 2 years ago, where they just had answers on answers. Just the run game is way more explosive now. And
Shane Steichen's also better than Kellen Moore.
And you're just like, but I know it's simplistic. Which quarterback are you taking to win the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts? And I'm probably going to end up on the Chiefs. We got 2 weeks to give out predictions, so I don't know where I'm at. Got to watch the film, bro. But that Chiefs defense is real deal too, man. They'll give you issues. They'll make you pay if you make a mistake. So they're not the Commanders' defense. They're gonna bring it. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. What's your excitement scale? 1 to 10, Penik.
I'm close to. I'll say 9. Ooh. Because while this game, I feel like our guy Max Manus. But this is not me throwing him under the bus, but he tweeted out.
Throw him under there.
But he tweeted out I need an exciting game for the AFC Championship, which I think we got that for the AFC Championship game. But I need an exciting game, or else I'm going to start having conversations about the NFL playoffs versus the MLB playoffs. And as a baseball guy, if you advocate for baseball, I get having that thought. But where I think we're at now with the NFL, I said this kind of at the start. These good teams are good for a reason, and it's because they're boring. And I feel like that's kind of where the NFL is at as a league. It'll
turn around and eventually.
It's teams will, as Bobby. I think we're gonna get back to 2015 with insane offense, and even 2020, 2021 was a big offense, explosive play year, and all the explosive plays have been kind of going down ever since then. But there's a reason why these two particular teams, I think we're going to see a very evenly matched play game. Or one team, we're going to see a quarterback maybe make mistakes, a quarterback take sacks, a quarterback throw interceptions that maybe is uncharacteristic of typically what they do and what these teams do. And I seriously think, even though it's boring analysis, that's the type of shit that's going to make the difference. Whereas I don't know if, let's just say Mahomes takes a couple bad sacks or Mahomes throws an interception. I don't know if the Chiefs are good enough to get like a couple 40, 50-yard plays to flip the script and get back in the game. That's not how these good teams, these final two teams, are able to operate. They're able to operate because they kick ass and they play sound, disciplined football. And I think and I'm hoping that's the kind of football game that we see in 2 weeks.
Well, we'll have plenty of time to break it down. We will do so later in the week. I'm more curious as I watch your Senior Bowl coverage this week whether or not Penik decides to put shoes on when he does
never.
the show instead of just wearing his socks.
And swinging my feet around.
What a scumbag.
You're probably also the guy who takes his shoes off on plane rides, aren't you?
Can I, Jeff? Producer Jeff is in the room. Did you see that I had my right shoe off on our second flight yesterday?
Oh,
but I kept my left one on?
Clean it up.
Yeah.
You're representing a company. Let's go. Jeez, oh, man. All right, boys, have fun down there in Mobile. Tell all the good people in the NFL circles that I say hi, particularly if you run into some of our crew at NFL Network as well. We'll be looking forward to your coverage. Can't wait. That's going to be awesome. And we will see everybody later this week as we continue to break down Super Bowl 59. So for a pair of producers, Jeff down there in Mobile and Connor wherever he is in the world today, and for Justin Penik and Bobby Skinner, I am Chris Rose. We will see you later this week on Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL.